It's a great pleasure to follow that invigorated speech from the wonderful revenue spokesman for the opposition. But look, Mr Speaker, this is a bill which contains a whole lot of issues and tidy up matters, and I want to focus a little bit about a couple of those remedial matters. You see, Mr Speaker, we're a government, unlike others in the world, that is making the tax system simpler and easier and reducing costs to people, and I think that's a really neat thing. There are a couple of good provisions in this bill which haven't been touched on by earlier speakers, and I think they're worth mentioning in particular. One of those is the exemption from gift duty for the gifting of assets to city council organisations, and we had a couple of submissions about that who were very keen to make sure that went through. This arose when you had a number of organisations gifting certain assets to local government in particular, and that was going to rise in gift duty, and that really wasn't a sensible thing to do and discourage gifting of assets to local government. So there's an exemption in the Act here that allows for that for transfers made to local or central government. And there have been some quite high-profile cases where if this hadn't been passed through, there would be some particular issues or problems, and that would discourage sensible gifting arrangements. The other thing I just want to touch on, Mr Speaker, is this issue over the what's called the branch equivalent tax accounts debits, or beta debits. Now, for people like me who happens to be a qualified accountant, this is sort of quite an exciting aspect of the tax law, but for most people this is one thing where people sort of look at their heads and roll their eyes, and I can see Mr Garrett doing the same. But these things are quite important because they allow the offsets that exist between companies investing overseas, and what there's been is some other changes to tax law to simplify it, and what's meant is the need for this particular aspect of tax law has been removed as a result of this bill because of the other changes we've made. And I think that's a really good thing because we're a government that believes in simplification, and that was a good step forward. We had a very good chair through this select committee process in Craig Foss, and I note Mr Nash over there passed him over, a wonderful MP from the Tukituk, beautiful part of the world in the Hawke's Bay there. And I think we had a great work by the officials trying to grapple with some very complicated matters. And I pass on tax is never the most exciting topic at the best of times, but they made it interesting enough for us for those members who didn't quite have a tax background to get their head around it and understand the importance of some of these changes. And I think that's a good thing. And we've got a bill here which wraps up all that stuff in a way where it could be understood and sort of hold things out. Mr Speaker, I don't want to touch on anything more in particular on the tax changes. There's been a few sort of barbs thrown by the opposition around some of the issues around wider issues around superannuation. But look, the issue of savings and investment is a journey, and this bill is another step along that journey towards actually improving our savings rates and encouraging people with the right incentives to actually do a bit more and bring a bit more savings back to New Zealand. That's got to be neat, don't you think? And I think what we have, Mr Speaker, is an ability with this sort of bill to those Kiwis that are coming home to New Zealand, and there's been hundreds of thousands of them coming through in the last 18 months under a John Key government, to be able to bring their savings in some way through with Kiwisaver. And I think that's a good step forward to bolster our private savings effort. Mr Speaker, I just want to finish off finally on this an issue around something which is of quite exciting note, the continuing exemption for offshore oil drilling operators. I know there's some fear and loathing about that, but I think that that has the potential to make significant funds for New Zealand, and that's got to be a wonderful thing. Thank you very much.